Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my top 10 best bets here for week number 1. I'm going to do a countdown and then I'm going to throw in a few little parlays that I like at the end of this video, but kicking it off at number 10. So the bet is going to be in the middle. You can see the underline. I'm taking the under 50.5 in the Boston College Northern Illinois game. I feel fairly confident about this. Boston College also sitting minus 8.5. Some money coming in on Northern Illinois, pushing that line down. But this is one of those games. It's noon. It's week 1. Neither of these teams have good offenses. They haven't had good offenses in years. Feels like it's going to be a lower scoring type game. If it is 23-14, that is a very, very easy under. You know, if the over-under was in this game was like 46 or 47, I would still be tempted to take the under. I just can't see these two teams scoring a lot just based off of this matchup, so I'll go the under 50.5 in that one. Moving to number 9, I'm going with Hawaii plus the 3.5. The Stanford team is just a train wreck. They've been ruined by the whole NIL thing. They're replacing David Shaw, although maybe that's a positive considering how bad David Shaw was towards the end of his tenure. But overall, guys, this game's at 11 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Hawaiian time. Hawaii just came off of a very good performance against Vanderbilt. They're already 1-0 against the spread, and I think they get a home win. They're going to have the advantage in this game. Already playing week 0, Stanford on the road. Gimme Hawaii straight up to win this game, or the plus 3.5 to where if they lose by a field goal, you're still talking about them covering, so I'll take that. Moving on to number 8, it is Toledo at Illinois, and I love Toledo possibly to win this game outright, but at least to cover the 9.5. To me, Illinois, I don't know if I want to call it a fluke last year, but I'm not buying them this year. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by Illinois possibly going 6-6. I will take Toledo, returning the dual threat QB Finn. They had a good year last year. They were definitely the best team in the MAC, and now they're projected to be a top 2 team in the conference again. Although, let's be honest, that's really not saying much considering it is the MAC, but Illinois I'm not buying them, and I think they kick it off right off the bat with a very close game. People are going to be surprised. I mean, this is a MAC team going on the road to a Big Ten team that won like 8 games last year, and the spread is below 10. Folks, that does not add up. There's something wrong. Vegas understands that Illinois really is not that good. That's why the spread is so low, and I'm not going to fall in for the trap and be like, oh, Illinois was good last year. Yes, they're easily going to cover against a MAC team minus the 9.5. I don't think it happens. This game, I think, is on Big Ten Network, so really no one's going to be watching it. I'll take Toledo there. Moving on to number 7, it is Nebraska at Minnesota. So this is the Thursday night game. You know, we're talking about very, very close, very, very low scoring. I'll take Nebraska plus the 7. 7 points is just far too much for this Minnesota offense to cover. Again, against a Nebraska team, they're not terrible. They've got a new coach. Maybe Nebraska loses this game, but 7 points to me is aggressive. I think it might actually be plus 8 now. I should have looked that up, but either way, I will take Nebraska to cover, and I do like the under in this game. Should get some low-scoring games here because it is week 1 and the defenses are ahead of the offenses. Moving on to number 6, we got to go Penn State. So Penn State, it is a big spread, minus 20.5. The reason I have Penn State covering, and like Ohio State's not going to be on here, they're minus 30. Alabama's not going to be on here, they're minus 39.5. When you start getting to the really big spreads, it gets finicky to where if the opposing team scores a garbage time touchdown, you possibly lose. That's why I like 20.5. West Virginia is going to be horrible this year. They're probably going to fire their head coach mid-season. Penn State wins this game. You win 41-14. That is an easy cover. They might win 41-7. So 20.5 to me. You could even get like a backdoor, 42-21 type win where you cover by 1 point because it is 20.5. That's a good number at home for Penn State. against a West Virginia team who is just horrible. This could also be one of those letdown things where it seems like everyone does want to anoint Penn State and maybe West Virginia because this is college football. It's week 1. Penn State's breaking in a new quarterback. Maybe they keep it close and then Penn State pulls away and they don't end up covering. I could see that, but I just think Penn State has so much more talent. They're at home. It's 7:30. It's a raucous environment. Everything sets up for Penn State to win this game easily. But I am not alone in that thinking. That is kind of the general consensus, and normally when it comes to betting, the opposite happens, and we get like a 17-14 game late in the third quarter. But alas, I'll still take Penn State minus the 20.5. Moving to number 5, I just love Colorado plus the 20.5. TCU breaking in so many different new positions. Colorado, they've got no depth, but their first string in terms of talent, I mean, I think TCU's a little bit more talented, and certainly there's going to be more cohesion because this Colorado team is built entirely through the transfer portal. But I don't know, man. 20.5 is just too much for me for TCU. I'll take Colorado to keep this game close, and I feel semi-confident about that. It's just tough with Colorado because they are a completely brand new team. And TCU, they've got Chandler Morris, who was the starter week 1 last year over Max Duggan. Now, I don't think Chandler Morris is going to be as good as Max Duggan, but you do have to understand that either way, TCU, in my opinion, my expectations are so low for TCU this year. I think 8-4, 9-3 would be a really good year for them. If their fan base really thinks, 10-2, 11-1, I would just be so shocked. They had so many close games last year, and then they got exposed at the end of the year. But you would figure if you're TCU, this should be a relatively easy non-conference game, even with Deion Sanders. I don't know. I've got it pretty close. Moving to number 4, I'm going to go with Western Kentucky to blow out South Florida. Western Kentucky being at home, Austin Reed is back. This will be a game, probably a lot of points are scored in the first quarter. I saw the over-under on this game was sitting at around 71. I'm not going to touch that. 71 is a big number either way. It's not like you don't want to root for these teams to score because you know they're going to. So I'll just take Western Kentucky minus the 11.5, especially if they can drop 40 or 50 points. It should be relatively easy to cover that. Moving on to number 3, South Alabama and Tulane. We might be getting some rain in this game, so I'll take South Alabama plus the 6, possibly to win outright. South Alabama, solid team, good defense. They were good last year. They're going to be good this year. Tulane, on the other hand, they should be all right. They ranked number 24. I'm guessing this spread is based a lot off of last year, and we're not in last year anymore. So I will take South Florida plus the 6 there on the road. Moving on to number 2, I'm going to take the obvious pick here. We're going to go South Carolina plus the 3 in the neutral site game. It's just both of these teams are at an influx right now. Certainly Drake May is better than Spencer Rattler, but I don't think the gap is crazy, and I think South Carolina has the more talented roster. So this is going to be one of those close games with players that are just completely brand new to each other. There's going to be no cohesion in terms of game situations between these teams. North Carolina lost so much last year. South Carolina lost so much. It's going to be a complete mosh pit. I think it's going to be a 3-point game either way. So if you give me plus 3, even if, North Carolina wins on a walk-off field goal, it's a push. So I don't hate that. And then number 1, I'm going with another, I would say, semi-obvious one. I'm going with North Texas to cover the 6.5 versus Cal. Cal is just not a good program at all. There's no way I would pick them. North Texas has a lot of momentum going with them right now, joining the new conference. They always seem to have a decent offense. They're at home, plus the 6.5. Maybe Cal wins this game late, but 6.5 seems like an easy number for North Texas to cover at home against the Cal team, who's probably going to be lethargic coming on the road. And then these are just a few parlays that I put together. Please don't bet on these. These are just ridiculous. Actually, you know what? I do have a safe parlay at the end. I've got 2 just fun ones and then a safe one. So this one, Bama minus 39. Look, it's tough, the 39 points. The only reason why Bama is not minus 44 is because of the QB question mark. Middle Tennessee, do we really think whether it's Jalen Milroe or whoever it is, this game's got like 56-7 written all over it to me. Western Kentucky, I already talked about that, minus the 11.5 against South Florida at home with a returning QB. North Texas plus the 6.5, South Alabama plus the 6.5, Toledo plus the 9.5. Those are all teams that should keep those games close. And then you've got the Grand Slam, Penn State minus the 20.5 there. That's a nice little fun little parlay. The next one we're going to be looking at, you can see Nebraska plus the 7. You get off to a nice start on Thursday night. You've already got a game. You get Nebraska within 7. We like that. The under 43 in the Utah State at Iowa. I mean, it's kind of like an obligation to do this. Now, I saw Cade McNamara was questionable. I'm not exactly sure if he's going to play or not, but this game's at Iowa. It's always like 20-10, those type of games. They're very bland. Northern Illinois at Boston College, I like the under 50.5. Neither of those two teams should generate much offense. Miami minus the 16.5 versus Miami of Ohio. So Miami, Florida. This was going to be one of my top 10 best bets, taking Miami of Florida minus the 16.5. It just seems like they're so undervalued right now. And rightfully so. I mean, last year they were horrible, but they've got two of the best safeties in college football. They do have talent on the defensive line. Tyler Van Dyke, nobody thinks he's any good, but last year we were kind of going into the year saying he was going to be a top quarterback. I still think he has talent. So I think Miami, Florida, minus 16.5. It's not much to cover against a MAC school at home. They've got significantly more talent. Colorado plus the 20.5, obviously, there. And then the final one, this is just the money line one. I like putting together these. This is only plus 217. It's UCLA money line against Coastal Carolina. This game's at 10:30. I just can't. Well, honestly, with Grayson McCall, maybe Coastal Carolina could have a chance, but I like UCLA and Chip Kelly. BYU, I just randomly threw that game in. Sam Houston State making their FBS debut. Virginia Tech, I just randomly threw that game in as well. Minus 750 against Old Dominion. Michigan State, minus the 650 versus Central Michigan. That game's on Friday night. I would be shocked if Michigan State lost, but it would be funny if they lost. Rutgers money. I think that's a good value on Rutgers minus the 235. Do we really think, Northwestern's going to beat Rutgers? Rutgers is kind of performing slightly better, at least last year. Their defense was okay. Clemson moneyline at Duke. This will be a close game, but I cannot see Clemson losing to Duke week 1. Penn State moneyline, I would say that's an auto lock. Miami of Florida, you would think, although Miami of Florida is notorious for losing to bad teams at home. But that is just a fun little money line parlay there. But guys, that is going to do it for my top 10 best bets of week number 1. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.